So I promised one of our users a little overview of what torts is looking like for the 2025 California bar exam period. I spent some time looking at patterns this afternoon. So before I wrap up my day of work, I want to go over the trends of torts for 2025. It is highly rusty. Torts has not come up since July 2023. We had a pure product liability essay back then, and it skipped all of 2024. So we are highly due for negligence, defamation, the privacy torts, IIED, NIED. We're due for the intentional torts and defenses. That has not been tested since February 2022. And negligence has not come up, by the way, since July 2021. Defamation came up in Feb 2020. And then we did have negligence in July 17 and Feb 2019. So you must spend ample time on torts for the 2025 bar exam period. For February 2025, which is coming up soon, definitely a fair game. Definitely will be on my prediction list. So if you're in torts, which my class just began, you want to really spend time with the elements, spend time with the rules, and know some approach. So let's get into some negligence approach. Negligence seems pretty straightforward, but you can have several different fact patterns. You can have a straight, pure negligence essay where potentially multiple defendants could be on the hook for negligence. You also can have multiple special duties being tested. So that's where you would have maybe a negligence per se with landowner liability. And then you could have vicarious liability type essays. Negligence can cross over with other areas of torts. So it definitely is a hot topic. And this user's request was for me to give a little approach overview. And that's why I'm focusing in on negligence. I also think it's a pretty hot topic, and it's definitely due to come up on the essay portion soon. So when you're writing for negligence, I like to have my applicants start with foreseeable plaintiff. And that's that foreseeability standard where the plaintiff was actually within the zone of danger under Cardozo, and then you have Andrews where the duty is owed to all, foreseeable duty is owed to all. So here you could have a major issue of foreseeability, really establish it well, and then go into duty. Now in duty, you are really just establishing what the defendant's duty was in action to the plaintiff. So you're not going into an analysis here. A lot of applicants make this mistake. You want to really just establish the general duty or a specific duty that is owed. So that's where you could have those landowner liability duties to a trespasser, an invitee, or a licensee. You also could have negligence per se, and so on and so forth. So make sure you know your list of special duties. Now, let's say the defendant does not have a general duty but has a special duty. Make a heading general duty, state that the defendant's act falls within, a special duty, and then go into a heading, an IRAC on what that special duty is. And then after you just identify what the special duty is or the general duty, depending on what is being tested in the facts, then you'll go into breach. And here in breach is where you would really want to establish breach of the duty. So this is where your analysis points are really going to lie with negligence to really show whether the defendant acted reasonably or unreasonably pursuant to the duty that he or she held. And you want to really be kind of creative. Don't go outside the scope of the facts too much, but really establish what the defendant should have done or could have done pursuant to the duty that they hold. So if you have a bus driver that is speeding within a school zone, you want to make the argument that a reasonable bus driver would not have been speeding where there were signs, assuming that there's a sign, or even just common sense, knowing the area and knowing that they are driving within a school zoned area. Now, after you're done with breach and you do a good job on it, and by the way, I don't mean to write a huge analysis. This is a big misconception with bar exam writing. You don't need to write more than 3-4 sentences. It doesn't have to be this long, drawn-out argument. Be eloquent, make your argument, be assertive, use the word reasonable, tie in the standard, and then get out and conclude. Once you're done with breach, you're going to go into causation. You're always going to discuss actual causation. You'll pretty much get quickly in and out of there. And then you're going to go into proximate causation. Now, if the defendant's act was intervened by any other type of act that led to the plaintiff's harm, then you could have a major proximate causation issue. But if not, it will be foreseeable, the defendant's act and the harm, and you'll just quickly get out of proximate causation. And then you will go into damages, get really quickly in and out here and establish the damage, and then get into defenses always. So I want you to always consider contributory negligence, comparative, and assumption of risk, even if you're just negating it. They show up in almost every single model answer on negligence. Now, if you have a vicarious liability issue, make a heading on top, vicarious liability. So let's just assume that a school hired a teacher, and they didn't do their due diligence, and they didn't really look into the background of the teacher. And so now the school is being sued on an act of negligence by the teacher. So you have to bring the school in on a theory of vicarious liability. So you make your heading school district for negligence, and then you make a subheading vicarious liability. You establish the theory. Here it's employer, employee, and that respondent superior. And then you bring the school in on that theory so that now there's established standing so that there is a lawsuit potentially for negligence by the plaintiff against the school who did not act but hired someone that they should have maybe looked into a little bit more. So that's where you how you deal with vicarious liability. All right, that's your negligence capsule. Of course, our approach is so much more thorough. I think it's almost 10 pages. So I really gave you just a broad overview. If you have any questions, let me know. Make sure if you are taking the exam in 2025, you know your torts well. Good luck.